This is a serious clash happening right now. So
they come after another night of protests in Minneapolis following a second.
Oh my God!
All right, people of God, it's time for a little discernment. I mean, seriously, with the rise of... No bondage, no chains. Jesus set me free. No bondage.
Person gets baptized, and two angels appeared.
Is the world slipping into the end times faster than we think, when everything falls apart all at once in a flash? Just in the early days of 2026, violence breaks out. Wars stir up bloody memories. Floods swallow up streets. Wind and fire sweep across cities, and the sky warps in ways that leave folks breathless. 10 events hit one right after the other. No room to hide. Society cracking apart. Nature getting mad. Faith rising up. Prayers ringing out in the mess. Weird lights ripping through the clouds. Secrets bubbling up from the deep, and fear sneaking into every second. It all feels like it's picking up speed, shoving humanity toward a thin breaking point. Do you feel the squeeze getting tighter day by day? Let's head down to each section below and dig into the facts on each one. And before that, drop a comment to share your own beliefs. And now we'll jump right in with the first wild event. 1. Fierce clash between anti-ICE protesters and federal forces in Minneapolis. Minneapolis turned into chaos in just a few hours. Streets filled with tear gas, loud explosions echoed between buildings, and wave after wave of people got pushed back in the disorder. The urgency spread so fast that you realize the news isn't just cold words on a page anymore, it's live pictures flooding your screen, making the whole city's heartbeat race. It all blew up on January 15, 2026. It started with gatherings protesting the work of ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, then quickly turned into direct face-to-face clashes with federal agents. Streets around downtown were blocked off. Hotspots kept shifting. Crowds split into smaller groups, then crashed into each other, painting a picture of social tension stretched to the breaking point. The background in Minneapolis shows protests had been going on since late 2025, while immigration enforcement campaigns were being stepped up. According to Fox News, federal forces deployed more than 2,000 personnel to protect key buildings and control the crowds. They used standard measures like tear gas and rubber bullets to keep the conflict from spreading. Local sources also reported an earlier shooting involving federal agents that made the already tense atmosphere even heavier. Things moved very fast that day. The early marches, which were peaceful at first, broke down when objects were thrown toward the security fence near the Bishop Henry Whipple building. Officers pushed back to break up the crowd. Traffic came to a standstill in about a 2-mile radius, and many areas had to be temporarily closed. Videos from the scene show cars flipped over, people running in every direction through thick smoke, and main roads constantly being rerouted to avoid new clashes. With these social conflicts growing, the Bible once warned about such chaos as part of a time of testing. Matthew 24:6-7 says, "You will hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that you are not alarmed, for this must take place, but the end is not yet. For nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there will be famines and earthquakes in various places." At the same time, Romans 13:1 reminds us, "Let every person be subject to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except from God, and those that exist have been instituted by God." What happened in Minneapolis shows how deep social division can explode into violence in a very short time when trust between sides gets worn away and pressure builds up too long. Keeping order and having real talk are key to reducing injuries and stopping the spiral from getting worse. As the city tries to get back to normal daily life, the big question still hanging is whether this is just one isolated hotspot or an early sign of bigger waves of unrest quietly spreading to other cities. 2. Russian rocket attack flares up again in people's hearts. The sharp metallic screech, fine dust flooding the lens. Everything happens so fast there's no time to duck. No narration needed. The pictures alone hit you like a cold shock. The next shots show the building carved deep into its core. Floors pancaked on top of each other. Staircases gone. Hallways sliced through like a giant blade came down. Rescue teams move through the rubble, flashlights sweeping narrow gaps barely wide enough for an arm. Stretchers keep coming out. Survivors' faces are coated in white dust, eyes blank, bodies shaking from shock and cold. The damage is clear and heavy. Many civilians dead, dozens injured, hundreds of residents left with no home. All the everyday living systems completely broken. Concrete chunks piled up tens of feet high. The search goes on for hours in dangerous, high-stress conditions. According to official Russian news sources, the rocket was aimed at a military target, but the video plainly shows a residential area taking the direct hit. Watching that string of images, you can't help wondering, after an explosion like that, what disappears first? The walls of a home or people's fragile sense of safety? The narrator stays completely neutral, no guessing, no added emotion, just lays out the facts alongside the pictures so viewers have to face their full weight. That cool, detached tone actually makes every frame feel heavier. The Bible passages aren't there to comfort. They stand like an indictment held up in front of the war. Isaiah 2-4 says clearly, "He will judge between the nations and settle disputes for many peoples. They will beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation will not take up sword against nation, nor will they train for war anymore." Those words echo through the images of destruction, laying bare the stark contrast between the dream of peace and the reality of violence. Revelation 6-4 tightens the charge even more. Another horse came out, a fiery red one. Its rider was given power to take peace from the earth and to make people kill each other. To him was given a large sword. Once peace is taken away, the cost isn't just measured in body counts. It's in the collective memory that's torn apart. What this video shows doesn't end with the pile of rubble. It leaves one unanswered question hanging in the air. If violence keeps getting justified by reasons and official statements, what boundary will be the next one to get broken? 3. Flooding devastates Victoria. Raging water sweeps away cars and houses. The water came without warning, rushing past all the usual signs and tearing apart the peaceful coastline in just a moment. When the road suddenly turns into a wild river, do you even have time to realize how fast nature can change? News pouring in from along the Great Ocean Road makes the air feel heavy, where a famous tourist drive is now swallowed by chaos. The Great Ocean Road stretches about 150 miles, winding through hilly country and open coastline that's no stranger to strong winds and heavy rain. News reports say a low-pressure system dumped over 7 inches of rain in just a few hours, triggering flash floods in the Wye, Kennet, and Cumberland catchments, sending water roaring down into roadside towns at unstoppable speed. The area that's packed with summer visitors quickly turned into an evacuation hotspot. Things got worse fast as the water rose, washing at least 4 cars out to sea and flooding campgrounds in no time. Pictures show caravans lifted off the ground, big trees uprooted, roads ripped apart and blocked for nearly 10 miles around. News channels report that rescue teams had to use helicopters to save a man trapped on his roof, while support centers in Lorne and Apollo Bay took in around 400 affected people. The hard numbers keep coming, but behind them is a growing feeling of helplessness. Weather experts keep issuing warnings about landslides and more flooding since the ground is completely soaked, admitting that some of this is beyond normal predictions. News says several road sections will likely stay closed for days, hitting local supply chains and tourism, the main livelihood for the area. In the middle of all this, the Bible speaks like a serious warning about nature's untamable power. Genesis 7:11-12 says, "In the 600th year of Noah's life, in the 2nd month, the 17th day of the month, the same day were all the fountains of the great deep broken up, and the windows of heaven were opened, and the rain was upon the earth 40 days and 40 nights." Those ancient words remind us of our real limits. Psalm 93-3-4 goes on, "The floods have lifted up, O Lord, the floods have lifted up their voice. The floods lift up their waves. The Lord on high is mightier than the noise of many waters, yea, than the mighty waves of the sea. This isn't meant to scare us. It's to help us face the humility we need before a power we can't control. The disaster in Victoria shows how nature can break every plan in a heartbeat, and it calls for much more serious preparation and adaptation to climate risks. With extreme rains becoming harder and harder to predict, the big question remains: will Australia be ready for the next wave? Or is this just the beginning of bigger changes already forming on the horizon? 4. Wake up warning. You won't survive 2026 if you don't quickly see what's happening and wake up. This warning is being sent out straight, urgent, no sugarcoating. The message you keep seeing all over social media is this: 2026 will be a time when people can't live in peace unless they have the spiritual discernment the Bible talks about. The line between truth and deception is disappearing faster than ever before. With AI advancing so fast, political conflicts spreading, and trust in society dropping, many pastors and Christian leaders have started speaking out loudly at the same time. People like Jack Hibbs and Tomi Arayomi are saying we're entering the kind of period Revelation describes, where the image of the beast is no longer just a far-off idea, but something that can easily be connected to technology that can copy humans, control minds, and manipulate behavior. Tons of videos, podcasts, and online sermons are popping up everywhere, getting millions of views and shares. The main point in all of them is, you have to act now. If you keep living by feelings, following the crowd, or holding on to vague beliefs, it's very easy to be led astray. In the middle of all this, people are feeling a growing pressure in their spirit. Every choice they make could become a life or death turning point for their faith. According to Charisma Podcast and many Christian forums, thousands of people from all over the world are joining non-stop online prayer meetings. Believers say this is the moment to stay extremely alert because AI, deepfakes, and fake information can create whole, fake realities that make it hard to tell what's real and what's a clever trap. But not everyone agrees with this interpretation. Right under those warning videos, you'll see the comments split into very different camps. One side says, these are necessary wake-up calls in chaotic times. The other side worries that connecting technology with evil spiritual images creates extreme fear and goes against science. Some strongly support the call to discern carefully. Others push back hard, saying faith is being used to explain every modern change. So where do you stand in the middle of this debate? In the middle of all these conflicting voices, the Bible is being brought forward as the main guide. 1 John 4:1 says, "Dear friends, do not believe every spirit, but test the spirits to see whether they are from God, because many false prophets have gone out into the world." That verse keeps getting quoted as the basic rule for this information explosion age. Philippians 1:9-10 adds, "And this is my prayer, that your love may abound more and more in knowledge and depth of insight, so that you may be able to discern what is best." It's fairest. These warnings make it clear. Faith isn't just for comfort, it's also for guiding your actions when everything feels confusing. As these wake-up messages keep spreading, and the arguments show no sign of slowing down, one question still hangs in the air. Will this become the spark for a much stronger faith movement, or will it just be another wave of warnings that eventually gets lost in the endless ocean of online information? 5. Prayer March in Denver. Folks fill the streets to honor Jesus is King amid all the chaos. In the middle of all the noise and craziness in the world, there was this quiet, peaceful moment when a crowd walked slowly through the streets of Denver. They weren't shouting angry slogans, they were singing songs that lifted up their faith. It felt gentle and rare, and you could sense a different kind of rhythm right there in the middle of all the tension. Denver, the capital of Colorado, with about 715,000 people, saw folks come out not to protest or fight, but to pray and sing "Jesus is King." From posts spreading on Facebook and YouTube, this event was tied to the Jesus Place Colorado movement, where faith comes first as a calm answer to the growing unrest in society. The march started at Civic Center Park and went on for hours, all in good order. Around 500 people joined in, carrying signs, singing hymns, and praying together. It stood out so clearly against the violent scenes you see in other places. You could see the difference right away: smiles, holding hands, calm eyes instead of stress and anger. That contrast makes faith stand out as a different way to respond when things get tough. While the world shakes with arguments and fear, this group chose to stop, look up, and turn their hearts towards something holy. In that difference, faith doesn't have to be loud to be seen. It's strong enough on its own. The Bible comes in like a gentle reminder, not pushing, just inviting us to think. Genesis 6-9 says, "This is the account of Noah. Noah was a righteous man, blameless among the people of his time, and he walked faithfully with God." That picture shows a man holding on to his faith right in the middle of a messed up time, not following the crowd, but walking his own path with God. Psalm 91:1-2 goes deeper about finding shelter. "Whoever dwells in the shelter of the Most High will rest in the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress, my God, in whom I trust." These verses don't promise we'll escape every storm, but they show where our hearts can find real safety. From Denver, the message comes through loud and clear. Even in all the chaos, faith can still be the solid place that brings peace and hope. As these prayer gatherings keep spreading, is Jesus is King just going to be one nice moment in the flow of things? Or is it quietly starting a bigger awakening all over the world? 6. Mystery in the sky. Strange wave-shaped clouds that feel like the last days. The sky suddenly looked wrong, like a wall of ocean standing straight up. Long bands of clouds rolled into huge waves, so big that lots of folks just stopped and stared, totally stunned. The pictures spread so fast, you could almost feel the little seed of doubt creeping into your mind. Just one look up was enough to shake that old, comfortable feeling we all have about nature being predictable. This weird cloud thing showed up at the same time in far apart places, from Houston all the way to Patagonia. They formed long, parallel lines with very clear layers, almost like someone had planned it. The sky stopped being a calm background and turned into something alive, hazy, and kind of unsettling. Watching it wasn't just about seeing anymore. It reached something deeper inside. Science explains that clouds like asperitas, Kelvin Helmholtz, and lenticular ones usually happen when there's strong wind and big temperature differences. NASA and the Cloud Appreciation Society say they often form around 20,000 feet up, especially before stormy weather moves in. Still, when these pictures started popping up everywhere all at once, the mysterious feeling went way beyond any plain explanation. In Houston, a fall streak hole punched a giant opening right through the cloud layer. It looked like someone had torn the sky open. Down in Patagonia, lenticular clouds stacked on top of each other in shapes that reminded people of UFOs. Social media was full of comments calling it the ocean flipped upside down in the sky. In that moment, we weren't just looking at weather. We were facing a strange, hard-to-name feeling of being unsettled. Right in the middle of all that mystery, the Bible doesn't come as a final answer, but as an old, quiet reminder about signs in the sky. Matthew 24-30 says, "Then the sign of the Son of Man will appear in heaven, and all the tribes of the earth will mourn. They will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with power and great glory." That verse reminds us the sky has always been seen as a place that carries messages bigger than our everyday understanding. Revelation 1-7 goes on, "Look, he is coming with the clouds, and every eye will see him, even those who pierced him, and all the tribes of the earth will mourn because of him. So be it. Amen." These words don't force any one meaning on us, but they're hard to ignore when strange signs keep showing up in the sky and pulling everyone's attention. These odd clouds might just be the result of changing climate, or maybe they're a gentle nudge that we humans have never really been in charge of the sky. As these same kinds of things keep happening more and more often, the question still hangs there. Is this just random beauty from nature? Or is it the first small piece of a much bigger picture slowly coming into view? 7. Sacred wonder. 2 angels caught performing a moving ritual on a river in Honduras. The river in Honduras became a place where faith and something beyond words came together. Soft hymns were floating in the air. The water reflected a gentle, dreamy light, and in those slightly shaky frames, 2 white figures slowly appeared, almost like the sky had bent down to touch the earth. It was impossible to look away. Baptism is a holy moment in Christianity, a sign of being born again, when a person leaves the old life behind and begins something new. The video was recorded at a local river, surrounded by the praying arms of the faithful community. It quickly spread across TikTok and YouTube. The atmosphere wasn't loud or noisy. It felt deeply peaceful and serious, like every breath carried meaning. As the person being baptized went down into the water and was lifted back up, 2 hazy figures suddenly appeared behind them, moving slowly and softly, like light that had taken on shape. That moment was shared millions of times, carrying a holy feeling that's hard to put into words. Later analysis showed no signs of editing or digital tricks in the video. Still, some people think it could be an optical effect, light reflecting, mist forming in just the right conditions. But many others believe it wasn't a coincidence that the figures appeared at the most sacred second of the whole ceremony. That makes the story feel even more mysterious. In moments like this, the Bible is often turned to for answers about things our eyes see but our minds struggle to understand. Psalm 91:11 says clearly, "For he will command his angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways." That verse is seen as proof that angels being near isn't strange at all. They're quietly part of the journey of faith. Hebrews 1:14 goes further. Are not all angels ministering spirits sent to serve those who will inherit salvation? The Bible doesn't describe exactly what they look like or how they appear, but it lays the foundation for believing that the visible world isn't everything that exists. So the scene on that Honduras river has become a symbol. A moment when faith and reality touch each other. It brings deep hope to many people, while at the same time starting endless conversations. As similar images keep showing up in other holy places, the question still hangs in the air. Is this just a chance meeting of light and strong emotion, or a sign that an invisible door is slowly opening right in front of us? 8. Strange green light in Brazil. Unknown object cuts through clouds over Votuporanga sky. The night sky over Votuporanga was literally torn open when a weird green streak shot through the clouds, leaving everyone stunned and asking the same question almost at once. What in the world just flew over us? No explosion, no sign of any regular launch, just this cold, glowing light that stretched across the Brazilian sky like an invisible knife on the night of January 12, 2026. This didn't happen quietly. Within just a few hours, videos spread like wildfire across social media, showing the same thing from different angles. The green light moved right through the clouds, sometimes sharp, sometimes blurry, lasting only a few short seconds, but long enough to leave the whole community feeling deeply uneasy. Local people described it as a long, stretched shape, kind of like a cylinder, moving way faster than anything we normally see in the sky. Brazil is no stranger to UFO reports. From the famous Varginha case back in 1996 to mysterious lights over Rio de Janeiro, this area has been the center of controversial stories many times. Records from groups that track strange sky phenomena show that São Paulo state sees unusual lights pretty often, partly because of its location and lots of people watching the sky. But this time, the bright, cold green color and the way it sliced straight through the clouds made all the usual explanations feel shaky. Some folks think it could have been a meteor fragment or some secret military test, but the smooth motion and total silence cast serious doubt on those ideas. While science hasn't come up with a clear answer yet, old ancient connections started coming up again. as if humanity's deep memory was waking up in front of this strange sky. Ezekiel 1-4 once described, "I looked, and behold, a whirlwind came out of the north, a great cloud with flashing fire and brightness all around it, and in the middle something like glowing metal in the midst of the fire." That picture of light among the clouds makes a lot of people connect the dots. Daniel 7:13 also records another scene. "I saw in the night visions, and behold, one like a son of man was coming with the clouds of heaven." These ancient words don't give a direct explanation, but they open up a way of looking at things that gives the Votuparanga event an extra depth that's hard to grasp. When you put them next to modern sightings, the line between scientific observation and spiritual reflection gets blurrier than ever. That green light went out long ago, but its echo is still hanging there in the back of our minds. If more signs like this keep showing up, is it just a random string of nature and technology, or is it the quiet whisper of something much bigger, slowly revealing itself? And as long as the sky keeps speaking, the biggest question probably isn't about the light itself, it's about how ready we are for whatever comes next. 9. Mystery at the bottom of the ocean. The chained statues with 6 fingers. Down in the dark water, where almost no light gets through, something creepy has been found. There are statues lying still on the ocean floor, chained down tight like they were once locked up. They don't look like any normal human artwork we're used to. The place is quiet, but the silence feels heavy and tense, like the deep sea is hiding some kind of warning nobody ever said out loud. As soon as the first pictures started spreading, people got chills. These statues have hands with 6 fingers, long, clear, separate fingers. It's not something you can just ignore. Even more unsettling, tiny bubbles keep coming out from the cracks in the rocks and around the statues' bodies, making it look like they're actually breathing down there in the deep. That little trick makes you wonder where the line is between a lifeless object and something that might have once been alive. In the past, some underwater discoveries were explained as modern art installations, like those sunken sculptures made for tourists. But these ones feel very old. The surfaces are heavily worn and eaten away, and they don't follow any modern art style. The fact that they're chained makes people even more suspicious. This might not be just an art display, but leftover pieces of a story that was buried long ago. Divers say the site is about 100 feet down, where the pressure is strong and conditions are tough. The bubbles could just be natural gas leaking from the ground, but the way they line up with the breathing look makes a lot of people feel uneasy anyway. When you stare at those 6-fingered hands, you can't help but wonder, why does this strange detail keep showing up again and again in old legends and now in this discovery? Old stories come to mind quickly. 2. Samuel 21:20 says, "And there was yet another battle at Gath, where there was a man of great stature, who had 6 fingers on each hand and 6 toes on each foot, 24 in all. He also was born to the giant." 1 Chronicles 20-6 says almost the same thing. And yet again, there was war at Gath, where there was a man of great stature, with 24 fingers and toes, 6 on each hand and 6 on each foot, and he also was born to the giant. When you put those Bible verses next to the pictures from the bottom of the sea, it stops feeling like simple curiosity. It starts feeling like a warning. If those ancient descriptions weren't just symbols, then maybe these chained statues are actual remains of something that was once sealed away. Right now, the ocean's silence doesn't feel peaceful. It feels like it's holding its breath before something big. The pictures are still being studied, but the uneasy feeling has already spread fast. If these aren't just statues, if they're remnants of an old civilization or a kind of being that was buried on purpose, then the only question left is, what forced them to stay down there at the bottom? And whatever was locked away, is it slowly starting to wake up in a way we're not ready to face? 10. Strange fiery wind in Cleveland. Smoke and flames take over the street during the storm. The scene unfolded right in the middle of the storm and left folks stunned. The road suddenly got swallowed up by hot, swirling wind, thick black smoke, and little bits of fire flying around like sparks in the rain. Everything was so wild, it was hard to tell what was the storm and what was the fire. And in that moment, it really makes you wonder, if you were standing there, would you still believe this was just weird weather? It was caught on video on January 10, 2026, in Cleveland, Ohio, a place used to rough winter weather, but not usually anything quite like this. Strong gusts carried smoke and burning embers right across the street, making the whole neighborhood feel like it was inside a giant furnace. The howling wind mixed with the crackling fire turned the air scary, like the city was being tested by something way beyond our control. Cleveland has about 370,000 people, and winter storms aren't anything new there. But this mix of fierce wind and fast-moving fire got people talking. Some say it was just strong gusts hitting a small local fire. Others online are bringing up those controversial technologies people blamed for big fires in the past. Nothing's confirmed yet, but the uneasy feeling has spread fast. The video shows hot wind roaring down a road almost a mile long, with embers whipping along at crazy speed. Even folks watching from farther away could feel the heat pouring off it, like the air itself was on fire. In that second, the line between nature and something man-made got real blurry, leaving a lot of questions with no answers. When you put these pictures next to Bible verses, the warning feels even stronger. Revelation 16:8-9 says, "The fourth angel poured out his bowl on the sun, and the sun was allowed to scorch people with fire. They were burned by the intense heat, and they cursed the name of God, who had control over these plagues, but they refused to repent and glorify him." The fire there isn't just physical, it's a picture of judgment that can't be escaped. Psalm 97:3 adds to that fear. Fire goes before him and consumes his foes on every side. When fire shows up with wind and darkness, the message stops being just a symbol. It feels more like a verdict being read out loud in a noisy world. So this thing in Cleveland isn't just a shocking video. It makes you feel like stuff we used to think was far away is getting closer than ever. If fire and wind can team up into something this fierce, the big question left for us is this just a quick warning, or the final bell ringing, telling us bigger trials are coming? The events coming one after another in these first days of 2026 are no longer just separate pieces. When you put them side by side, they form a bigger, layered picture where natural disasters, wars, new technology, and strange things we can't quite explain are all crashing into each other at once. In times like these, the unease isn't just coming from the outside world, it's creeping into people's hearts too, making us wonder, what can we really hold on to when everything familiar starts to shake? The Bible described days just like this very clearly. Luke 21:25-26 says, "There will be signs in the sun, moon, and stars. On the earth, nations will be in anguish and perplexity at the roaring and tossing of the sea. People will faint from terror, apprehensive of what is coming on the world, for the heavenly bodies will be shaken." Those words aren't meant to scare us to death. They're meant to wake us up and remind us the world won't stay steady forever. When facing changes like this, the Bible doesn't talk most about running away. It talks about waking up. Waking up to look at our own life, the way we think, and our relationship with God. The Bible calls us many times to repent, to turn around, as the right response when times change. Acts 3:19 says, "Repent then, and turn to God, so that your sins may be wiped out, that times of refreshing may come from the Lord." This isn't a threat, it's an open door that's still there. In the middle of all the noisy news and conflicting opinions, prayer becomes something very simple but very important. Not because every question gets answered right away, but because prayer helps keep our hearts steady when everything feels chaotic. Philippians 4:6-7 says, "Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus." That kind of peace is exactly what so many people are missing most right now. In this space, every prayer or thought you share matters in its own way. When you leave a prayer, or just how you're feeling, it's not just a comment. It's a small sign that people still care, that we still want to find what's right in the middle of so much confusion. Those little things help keep the message from getting lost in the flood of information. If these words have been helpful to you, sharing them is a way to help others not miss the signs that are happening all around us. Every like or share keeps the message going, not to frighten people, but to gently remind each other to stay awake and walk with clearer direction in our faith. And finally, I want to send peace to everyone who's reading this. May God keep and protect every family, give shelter in these unsteady days, and guide us through every challenge. John 14:27 says, "Peace I leave with you, my peace I give you. I do not give to you as the world gives." May that peace stay with us all. Amen.
Такі сугроби у нас.
How much time is left before the sky finally speaks its last words? The blood moon suddenly hung there, bright red and icy cold, lighting up the world for 82 breathless minutes, long enough for unease to spread across every continent. The air felt thick. Daily life turned upside down, like an invisible door had just quietly closed behind all of humankind. It wasn't just a rare sky event where light bends through the atmosphere and paints the moon blood red. It was the opening signal for one crisis after another. Blizzards burying everything, tornadoes ripping things apart, wildfires swallowing forests, floods drowning the land, pure chaos wiping away every boundary. Do you feel like time is speeding up, like there's no room left to hesitate? Do you think this is all just random or something that's been warned about for a very long time? Everything is pushing us to the point where we have to wake up. If a quiet worry is rising in your heart, or you feel a little whisper toward heaven, please leave a prayer in the comments, like a small mark of faith, before the story moves on to the next part, okay? Now, let's get right into it together. Blood moon shows up right on the first day of 2026, kicking off chaos for all of humanity. The moon suddenly turned into a bright red ball, hanging there in the night sky and painting the whole world in blood red for a breathless 82 minutes. That light wasn't warm or gentle. It felt cold, so cold that lots of folks just stood frozen, like they'd seen something that wasn't supposed to happen. In that moment, we realized the familiar sky had lost its usual quiet peace. People saw it clearly in many places around the world, but it looked the strongest, up high, like in the Rocky Mountains, where peaks reach close to 14,000 feet, and the air is so clear, it made the red even more fierce. The red moon happens when sunlight bends through Earth's atmosphere, creating that glow and scattering effect. It usually only lasts a short time, but this one went on way too long, making it feel like the whole planet was bleeding. Joel 2:31 had warned us long ago. The sun will turn dark, the moon will turn to blood, before the great and terrible day of the Lord comes. It wasn't just something to look at. The blood moon came like the opening signal for a string of events that followed one after another, with disasters and trouble breaking out all over at the same time. Life everywhere sped up. The future felt foggy, and unease crept into even the most steady communities. Revelation 6:12 puts it this way: "When the Lamb opened the sixth seal, there was a great earthquake. The sun turned black like sackcloth, and the whole moon became red as blood." That warning rang out like a bell in the dark night. On social media, quite a few Christians shared careful warnings, saying the timing between this blood moon and what came after shouldn't be brushed off. They didn't claim it was 100% certain, but they pointed out the signs are coming more often, stronger, and harder to ignore than before. Acts 2:20 repeats it. The sun will turn dark, the moon will turn to blood, before the great and glorious day of the Lord comes. Like a reminder that all this was told ahead of time. Of course, some folks still say it's just a normal sky event, that science can explain everything with orbits and light bending. But when these rare blood moons start happening more often and disasters keep piling up right after, the just coincidence idea starts feeling pretty weak. This isn't only about the sky anymore. It's a wake-up call about a time of big chaos that's opening up, and humanity needs to pay attention. And as that red light slowly faded away, far off in another place, white snow started swallowing an entire city in Russia. Was that only the beginning? The whole town of Irkutsk, Russia, gets buried in a heavy blizzard. The moment the camera starts rolling, Irkutsk doesn't look like the usual Siberian town anymore. It turns into a living block of ice, with snow pouring down like it's sealing the sky shut. The shock hits hard, almost takes your breath away, when every path gets wiped out in just a few days. Houses sink deep, windows turn into blank white squares. No dramatic music, just the howling wind and the quick, scared breathing of people trapped in this sudden burial. Irkutsk sits right next to Lake Baikal, about 395 miles long, in a place used to average cold of -22 degrees Fahrenheit. But this time, the strength of it goes way beyond what folks there are used to handling. Snow keeps falling non-stop, each layer piling on the one before, making the town feel like it's sinking hour by hour. This isn't some quick cold snap, it's a solid white wall that won't stop. According to Russian news sources, snow in many neighborhoods measured over 10 feet, shutting down more than 62 miles of highway and cutting off food and water supplies. Winds gusting up to 44 miles per hour whip the snow into a total whiteout, so rescue teams can hardly get through. Power is out across huge areas, food stocks are running low, and fear spreads faster than the cold itself. In that scene, people look so small it's almost frightening. Faces wrapped tight in scarves and thick hats still show tired, helpless eyes as day after day passes and the snow never lets up. If you picture yourself there, you'd wonder how many more days until everything just collapses completely. Joel 2:10 once described it, "The earth shakes before him. The heavens and earth tremble. The sun and moon grow dark. The stars stop shining." When you see Irkutsk shaking in this blizzard, those words sound like a quiet warning. No long explanation needed, just a simple side-by-side with what's happening now. Many families have to divide up the smallest portions just to hang on, while forecasts say the snow will keep coming for days more. Those dry numbers don't carry feeling, but behind them are thousands of lives pressed into a corner by the ice. Isaiah 29:6 says, "The Lord Almighty will punish you with thunder, earthquake, loud noise, whirlwind, storm, and devouring fire." Suddenly, the whirlwinds and blizzards in Siberia don't feel like separate natural events anymore. They sound like a list being read out loud in our time. Some say this is just climate change, another extreme weather cycle. But when the strength, the timing, and the non-stop pounding all hit at once, the words from Revelation 16:21 come through cold and clear. From the sky, huge hailstones fell, each weighing about a talent. It doesn't have to be hail. Snow alone can crush life just the same. From the icy grave of Siberia, uneasy signals are spreading. While the deep freeze still grips Irkutsk, fierce tornadoes have already started roaring on the other side of the world. What's coming next? Tornadoes are coming one after another. The sky over the American suburbs looked like it was being torn apart by a huge spinning column of wind, reaching straight down from the dark clouds to the ground. Loud crashing sounds came one after another. Houses shook for just a few seconds before everything started twisting, breaking apart, and getting swept completely away from where it used to be. There was no longer any difference between the street and the rooftop. Everything got mixed up into one violent spinning mess. Anyone watching could only realize in time that this was no ordinary wind. This is happening in states like Texas and Oklahoma, right in the middle of Tornado Alley, a stretch of land about 1,200 miles long. Tornadoes are nothing new there, but they rarely come this thick and this strong, one right after another. For several days in a row, these spinning columns kept forming, one after the next, sweeping through quiet neighborhoods and throwing whole communities into a kind of chaos they've never seen before. Experts have counted them up and said some of these tornadoes reached EF3 strength, with a width of nearly 1 mile and winds up to 140 miles per hour. The spinning air picked up dirt, dust, pieces of metal, glass, and wood, sending them flying and sparkling through the air while wiping out hundreds of homes in just minutes. Those cold, hard numbers leave you with a tough question. If this is supposed to be normal, why is the damage so much worse than in past outbreaks? And what would you do if that spinning monster was heading straight for the place you're standing? Ezekiel 13:13 once warned, "I will bring a stormy wind in my anger, hailstones, and a violent whirlwind." When you look at the pictures and videos we have now, the wind stops being just weather. It becomes a sign, a loud wake-up call, that this kind of power is way beyond anything humans can control. Many scientists explain that big temperature differences, lots of moist air coming up from the Gulf of Mexico, and changes in the upper air are the main reasons. Climate models also show that strong tornadoes are likely to happen more often as extreme weather increases. That all sounds reasonable, but it still doesn't take away the uneasy feeling when the shape and the destruction of these twisters look more and more like the ancient warnings we read about long ago. Joel 2:1 says, "Blow the trumpet in Zion and sound an alarm on my holy mountain." That call sounds like a loud warning bell, not to explain what's happening, but to wake people up to what's going on again and again, and getting stronger each time. Revelation 8-7 goes on to say, "The first angel sounded, and hail and fire followed, mingled with blood, were hurled to the earth." When you see wind, flying debris, and destruction all happening at once, the warning message becomes clearer than ever, not through words, but through the real chaos spreading everywhere. And while those twisters haven't even finished in the south yet, strange signs are already starting to move up north. What exactly is waiting for Minnesota right after this wind? Chaos in Minnesota turns streets into a scene of shouting and screaming. Thick smoke rises, red and blue lights sweep across the blocks. Shouts and screams crash into each other, making a suffocating, chaotic noise. Minnesota's streets felt completely out of control in just a few hours. The normal order everyone knew just fell apart right in front of everyone's eyes, leaving a tension so thick that anyone standing there could only hold their breath and watch every second tick by. And you know that uneasy feeling all too well? It's not strange at all. Minnesota is usually a calm state with about 5.7 million people. Minneapolis covers 57 square miles, but that night, the main roads turned into hotspots. Crowds poured into the streets, mixed with police sirens, breaking glass, and the sharp smell of smoke and fire. Nothing followed any plan, just the sense that everyone's self-control had finally hit its breaking point. CNN and Fox News reported that hundreds clashed directly with security forces. Several areas got temporarily blocked off. Small fires started here and there along the main streets. Fireworks, rocks, and bottles flew in every direction, while tear gas spread and left whole neighborhoods in panic. The numbers they gave showed a lot of arrests happened fast, showing how quickly things got heated. Matthew 24:7 says, "Nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom." When you see people facing off in the middle of smoke and flames, this chaos stops being just a social order problem. It starts looking like a picture that was warned about a long time ago. It didn't stay in one place. Similar scenes popped up at the same time in other countries too. Protests and violence breaking out for different reasons, but ending in the same thing: conflict and fear. The way it's spreading makes a lot of folks wonder, are these just separate reactions, or signs of a bigger wave of things getting out of control? that's quietly connecting the whole world. 2 Timothy 3:1 warns, "Know this, that in the last days there will be difficult times." Those Bible words ring out like a serious charge, not aimed at one group, but straight at the growing moral decline and deep divisions in humanity. Revelation 11:18 goes on to say, "The nations raged, but your wrath has come." As human anger explodes on the streets, the warning message has never been clearer, like a marker showing how fragile order is starting to shake. And while the smoke in Minnesota hasn't even cleared yet, fresh reports are already coming in from Africa. What's waiting at Kruger when nature itself starts to speak? Kruger National Park, swallowed by floodwaters. The once deep green forest now stretches out like a huge, muddy, still lake, eerily quiet. That old familiar feeling of safety just disappears into the silence. From the air, Kruger National Park looks like one giant swamp, reminding people of the deep, flooded areas in the Amazon. Its more than 7,523 square miles are almost completely covered by water. Only the very tops of trees poke out, making lonely green strips across the endless sea of water. Many animals are trapped, moving slowly through the rising flood, showing a helplessness you rarely see in the wild. Water levels in many spots have risen almost 20 feet, washing away wooden bridges, shutting down all the tour routes, and forcing the park to close several main gates. Hundreds of visitors had to be evacuated quickly in bad weather, while rangers could only watch from a distance as the boundary between the forest and the long Crocodile River, about 200 miles, almost completely vanished. Looking at it, you can feel a quiet worry spreading. No words needed. Genesis 7:11 says, "The springs of the great deep burst forth, and the windows of the heavens were opened." The picture of water coming from everywhere in that Bible verse suddenly looks very real in what's happening now, like an ancient pattern showing up again in modern times. Some people say this is just the result of unusual heavy rains, something the global climate does from time to time. But the strength and size of this flooding go way beyond normal, leaving the forecast models confused. The whole ecosystem feels fragile now, where life and loss are separated by only a thin line. Matthew 24-38 reminds us, "For in those days before the flood they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, until the day Noah entered the ark." These words don't just tell an old story. They're like a key that explains how people often ignore quiet warning signs until everything gets out of control. Revelation 16:20 goes on, "Every island fled away, and no mountains were to be found." When floodwaters blur the shape of the land, that message rings out like a cold reminder of how fragile the natural order really is. The water still hasn't gone down in Kruger, and now new images are coming from South America, where the gray of water is slowly being replaced by the red of fire, showing a chain of changes that doesn't look like it's stopping anytime soon. La Pampa, Argentina is swallowed by flames. The green lungs keep getting attacked. From up high, thin strips of smoke start covering the reserve. The sky slowly changes color, bit by bit, leaving you with a quiet, uneasy feeling, like something is being warned about, but it doesn't have a name yet. At the Reserva Natural de Utracán, in La Pampa, Argentina, the old-growth forest covering about 13,590 acres is gradually sinking into a dark, reddish glow. The fire spreads with the wind, not loud and roaring, but steady and stubborn, turning the whole horizon into one deep orange wall. Thick smoke blankets nearly 1,000 square miles, bending the sunlight and creating a strange, dreamlike space that's hard to explain. In just a short time, more than 3,000 people had to leave their homes, while wild animals flee one after another in total confusion. Herds of animals show up in the videos, moving without direction, showing a rare kind of panic. In those shots, sparks reflected through the lens suddenly cross each other, forming bright cross shapes that flash then disappear, enough to make us feel something holy mixed with fear. Isaiah 29:6 comes to mind like an ancient explanation. "The Lord Almighty will punish you with thunder, earthquake, loud noise, whirlwind, storm, and devouring fire. Looking at what's happening now, the flames no longer feel like just a natural disaster. They carry the shape of something much deeper. Scientists say long dry weather and strong winds are the main reasons the fire got out of control. Still, the pictures and videos show that the fire isn't only destroying things, it's also creating strange visual signs that make people stop and think instead of just scrolling past without a care. Revelation 8-5 describes, "There were peals of thunder, rumblings, flashes of lightning, and an earthquake." Even though the setting is different, the sense of something stepping in beyond normal logic feels very clear. The fire is both a destroying power and a quiet message that stirs up faith. Joel 2:30 keeps shedding light. "I will show wonders in the heavens and on the earth, blood, fire, and pillars of smoke." As smoke and fire blend together in the sky over Argentina, that Bible verse becomes the key that explains why so many people don't just see a disaster, they feel a reminder. The fire hasn't been fully put out yet, and up north in the continent, loud explosion sounds are starting to come from Mexico. It raises the question, is this just human accidents, or the next piece in a much bigger picture? Big explosion of vehicles on the Mexico highway tears the sky, creating a truly terrifying and chaotic scene. Flames shot up high, the sky over Mexico shook, and it felt like reality itself was breaking apart. We could only stand there stunned by the raw, destructive power on full display. On the Mexico-Querétaro highway, about 130 miles long, near Tepeji del Rio, fire broke out at one spot and spread so fast no one could tell anymore where the road ended and the vehicles began. The heat rolled up in waves, rising like a glowing red wall, turning the usual busy highway into a suffocating scene of total chaos. The explosion started with a tanker truck carrying LP gas. The blast was strong enough to throw nearby vehicles around and set off a chain of fire that stretched almost a mile. The highway was shut down for more than 8 hours. Dozens of cars and trucks burned completely, with thick black smoke covering the sky. Online news reports said rescue teams took hours to get the flames under control, working in extreme heat with the constant danger of more explosions. In the middle of that sea of fire, the pictures show how small and helpless people looked. They could only run in panic. The bright light from the blaze reflected off the melting metal, creating a scene that was both fierce and almost unreal. It was hard to look away, even though the fear was overwhelming. Revelation 16:18 comes to mind like a warning. There were flashes of lightning, rumblings, peals of thunder, and a great earthquake. The combination of light, sound, and shaking in that Bible verse matches exactly what happened here, as if this chaos wasn't just some random accident, but something pointed to long ago. Experts say the cause was a technical problem and a collision while driving, a chain of mistakes that led to disaster. But the huge size and power of the explosion made a lot of people wonder about how fragile the systems are that we think are completely safe. Isaiah 30:30 shines a light on it too. The Lord will make his majestic voice heard and show his arm coming down in fierce anger with devouring fire. Right now, that fire isn't just burning things. It's showing the limits of human control when things get out of hand. Ezekiel 38:19 adds more. In my jealousy and in my blazing wrath, I declare that on that day there shall be a great earthquake, with the echoes of the blast still there and the road still hot. The feeling grows stronger that this is some kind of judgment on the chaos of our time. The fire in Mexico has finally died down. But in another place, icy cold images from Ukraine are starting to appear. A sharp, freezing contrast, like a sign that this chain of events is far from over. Ukrainians are relying on each other to survive the freezing winter without power. The cold doesn't come with a loud crash. It just creeps in quietly, like an invisible fog slipping into every scene. Kyiv is wrapped in darkness. The few lights that manage to glow through frosted windows make the whole city look like it's holding its breath. In moments like that, you can really feel the loneliness settling over every empty street. In the middle of this harsh winter, more than 2.8 million people are living without steady electricity for long stretches after attacks on the power grid. Outside temperatures drop to around -2 degrees Fahrenheit, but it feels a lot colder when the warmth slowly leaves your apartment. Many neighborhoods are left with just darkness and silence, where time drags on with every heavy breath. Heating systems are down in 471 buildings, so families have to crowd into the smallest room they have just to stay warm. The wind makes it feel like -19 degrees Fahrenheit, freezing the water in the pipes and making food harder to come by every day. In those moments, people turn to each other. They share every little piece of bread and every rare bit of warmth. 2 Timothy 3:1 comes to mind like a spotlight. You should know this. In the last days, there will be very difficult times. This verse doesn't just describe hard times. It sets the stage for what's happening now, where the struggle quietly tests people's faith and patience. Inside these powerless apartments, folks use portable gas stoves and candles for heat, knowing the risk of fire, but choosing survival. Simple meals happen in dim light, with quiet voices almost afraid to break the fragile stillness. And yet, in all of that, you can sense a small but stubborn hope, kept alive by people sticking close together. Matthew 24:12 gets mentioned again. Because of the increase of wickedness, the love of most will grow cold. Here, the cold isn't just the temperature. It's the danger that people's hearts might close up too, unless something stronger keeps them holding on to each other. Even in the long darkness, you see little groups gathering, sharing phone chargers, food, and words of encouragement. That becomes the rare bright spot. Surviving isn't a solo fight anymore. It's something they do together. Faith gets fed by the small, everyday acts of kindness. Revelation 6-8 opens up a deeper layer. A pale horse, and its rider's name was Death, and Hades followed close behind. Those words remind us how fragile life really is. But it's exactly in times like these that faith gets tested and proven the most clearly. The cold still hasn't let go of Kyiv, and farther up in the sky, strange cloud bridges are starting to appear, almost like another door is quietly opening ahead. The mysterious bridge in the clouds. High up in the mountains, thick clouds fill the air, and suddenly, a long, strange band of light appears. It doesn't seem to belong to the normal sky. For a moment, you might think your eyes are playing tricks, or maybe you're seeing something that's not meant to be explained right away. The scene was captured high in the mountains, where fog and clouds cover everything, and sunlight comes in at a sharp angle from way up high. No pillars, no supports. Just this faint, dreamy bridge stretching across the clouds for miles, gently curved like a floating walkway hanging in the sky. Everything gets very quiet, almost like time itself slows down. From a science point of view, this is an atmospheric optics effect. When the sun is at about 58 degrees high, its light passes through hexagonal ice crystals in the clouds and creates a circumhorizontal arc mixed with iridescence. The light bends and splits into colors, forming a smooth, horizontal band that stretches far. In theory, it's just physics, but the shape of it feels like something more than a plain description can capture. Right here, the Bible doesn't come to argue against science, it just quietly suggests something. Genesis 28:12 says, "He had a dream in which he saw a stairway resting on the earth, with its top reaching to heaven, and the angels of God were ascending and descending on it." That ladder from long ago wasn't an architect's blueprint. It was a picture of connection between two worlds. The cloud bridge just hangs there, silent, no clear message. But in Revelation 21:21, we hear about another scene. The 12 gates were 12 pearls, each gate made of a single pearl. That's not an explanation either. It's the Bible gently opening our minds to pathways that don't belong to our everyday world. It's natural to feel doubtful. Scientists can measure the sun's angle, study the ice crystals, even recreate the effect in a lab. Still, the holy feeling that picture gives you isn't easy to brush away. John 1:51 says, "You will see heaven open, and the angels of God ascending and descending on the Son of Man." That verse doesn't claim the cloud bridge is heaven itself, but it leaves room for the idea that we don't see everything. Then the clouds slowly drift apart, the light fades, and it's gone, leaving behind an empty, cold sky. But the question still hangs in your mind. Maybe some signs only appear long enough to plant a little seed of faith, then quietly slip away, like an invitation waiting for an answer somewhere up ahead. Strange sight on the snowy mountain. It happens when the blowing snow almost stops, and the gray sky drops down lower than usual. In that quiet space, you can really feel an unusual silence, like nature is holding its breath, waiting for something. Up on top of a snowy mountain, about 12,000 feet high, in low clouds and heavy falling snow, a strange light appears and gets bent into an oval-shaped shadow. It doesn't touch the ground, doesn't mix into the air, it just floats right above the white snow. The snowflakes around it start moving in a gentle circle, catching the light and making a sparkling effect that's both beautiful and hard to explain. Scientists usually call this a Brocken specter, or sundogs. When sunlight passes through ice crystals in very cold air, the shadow of the light source or a person can get much bigger and be surrounded by a colorful halo. In high humidity and thick fog, that shadow can stretch out to about 100 feet, making it feel like a separate shape standing there in the snow. But the Bible also describes scenes like this, using words that go beyond regular physics. Ezekiel 1-4 says, "I looked, and there was a whirlwind coming from the north, a great cloud, flashing fire, and bright light all around it." Seeing bright light wrapped in clouds and snowstorm makes those words hit harder than ever. The oval shape stayed there for a few minutes, long enough for the people watching to notice it didn't change form, even though wind and snow kept swirling around. Luke 21:25 gives a clear warning. There will be signs in the sun, moon, and stars. This isn't just a suggestion anymore, it's a sign placed in the context of the last days. Some folks say it's all just natural optics, nothing more. But the holy feeling that comes with it goes way beyond a simple explanation. Revelation 1-7 states it plainly and strong. "Look, he is coming with the clouds, and every eye will see him." Here, the Bible doesn't just describe, it gives the final word about the moment people will have to face the truth. When the light slowly fades and the shape disappears, the mountain goes back to its usual cold stillness, as if nothing ever happened. But the chain of signs ended here, not with a loud bang or chaos, but with a quiet warning. If these strange signs keep showing up among fire, freezing cold, and light from heaven, then the real question isn't up in the sky anymore. It's about how each of us is getting ready for the time we've been told is coming. When you look back at everything that's happened, the pieces don't stand alone anymore. They connect like links in a chain that can't be broken apart. The blood moon turning the sky red, pillars of fire rising in deep forests, explosions tearing through the air, bone-chilling cold blanketing the cities, and even the sacred figure floating above snowy mountains, all of it forms one clear picture. It feels like the world is getting very close to a line that used to exist only in prophecy. The Bible described that time with strong, honest images. Matthew 24-29 says plainly, "The sun will be darkened, the moon will not give its light, and the stars will fall from the sky." What has been, and still is, happening makes those words feel close, not far away. They seem like the beginning of the birth pains, when the old order starts shaking to make way for something that can't be turned back. Of course, a lot of folks see it differently. Science can explain each event one by one. Atmosphere, stuff, geology, optics, you name it. But when 10 signs come one after another, fast and strong, spreading across every continent, and touching the same deep unease in people, that kind of timing gets hard to brush off. The fact that they're all happening together makes us wonder if something bigger than normal logic is being shown to us. The Bible isn't trying to scare us. It's calling us to get ready. Those signs aren't just about things falling apart. They're a reminder for people to turn back to their Creator. When the world shakes, faith becomes the one steady place that doesn't move. Being saved doesn't come from figuring out every sign. It comes from choosing to stand in the light when the darkness grows stronger. So the biggest question right now isn't when the final things will happen. It's what condition your heart and soul are in. If that day comes suddenly, will you be ready to step through the open door? What we're seeing might just be the very beginning. The real hope rests on a promise that stands above all the chaos of this world. If you have a prayer in your heart, something that's weighing on you, or just a quiet thought, feel free to leave it in the comments as a way of offering it up. You're also welcome to share this message, give it a like, and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss any of these important reminders. Thank you so much for staying with me until the end. May peace cover you and your family in all the days ahead.
Olha isso, nossa, que coisa louca. Look.
Luz estranha aqui no Maranhão, pessoal. Olha aqui, ó, apareceu na minha região. Consegui filmar.
Is this world sliding fast toward a point of no return? When the sky shakes, fire breaks out in the middle of freezing ice, strange lights hang in the air, a feeling of chaos spreads across the whole planet, like the heartbeat of time is racing and running out. What started happening in early 2026 is no longer quiet. From the icy wilds of Alaska, the thick jungles of Brazil, to the highlands of Scotland, 10 strange events showed up all at once. Judgment, fire, mysterious pillars of light, doors in the sky, glowing orbs like messengers, nature moving out of control. All of it was caught on video, shared everywhere, so we can't just look away. Science talks about climate and magnetic fields, but a lot of these signs go way beyond the usual explanations. We're standing right in front of a very serious warning. Can you feel that uneasiness too? If you still have faith in your heart, please leave a prayer down below. And now, let's go straight to the most shocking image together. 1. Fire of judgment burning on the frozen peak. On the still white snow, a flame swallows up the space, melting away everything we thought we knew about nature's order. In that moment, we realize the peace we've had all this time was just a thin, fragile shell. No black smoke, no loud explosion, just pure fire, burning alone in the freezing cold, strong enough to leave anyone who sees it frozen in shock and awe. This was caught on video at the top of Denali, Alaska, the highest mountain in North America, about 20,310 feet tall, covered in dozens of feet of snow all year round. A place always seen as the perfect symbol of total cold now becomes the stage for something completely opposite. Videos spreading online show a flame nearly 100 feet high, burning steadily for hours, yet the ice right around it stays almost untouched. No collapse, no melting. That strange contradiction makes it impossible to brush off as some random accident. Joel 2:30 wrote about this long ago as a frightening sign. I will show wonders in the heavens and on the earth, blood, fire, and pillars of smoke. When you put that ancient picture next to this pillar of fire on top of ice, it doesn't feel like a simple coincidence anymore. It feels more like a warning sent long ago that is only now taking shape. People online quickly split into two sides. Some say it's just methane gas released from the permafrost because of climate change, like the ice fire that's appeared in Siberia before. Others talk about a rare chemical reaction or some camera lens trick making the light look bigger. They explain it carefully, sounding scientific and reasonable. But even the people who believe the natural explanation admit the fire has no smoke, doesn't spread, and doesn't leave the usual burn marks behind. Revelation 8-7 paints an even harsher picture. The first angel sounded his trumpet, and there came hail and fire mixed with blood, hurled down on the earth. A third of the earth was burned up. When fire appears in the middle of ice, not to warm anything, but to show power, the warning feeling starts to outweigh every calm explanation. Isaiah 66:15 drives the message home even deeper. For the Lord will come with fire to repay in his anger. Put these three Bible passages side by side, and the fire on Denali stops being just one strange event. It becomes the opening sign of stronger warnings to come. If fire can show up on ice, a place that seemed impossible to touch, then the question hanging in the air is, will it stop here? Or is this only the beginning of something much more powerful ahead?